I heard the lock click from the outside. My own son had just locked me in the basement storage room of the house I built with my bare hands 40 years ago. Through the thin door I heard him tell his wife, "The old man won't be a problem anymore. The buyer comes tomorrow at noon." That's when I realized they weren't just stealing my house, they were erasing me. My name is Robert, and at 72 I never thought I'd be imprisoned by the boy I raised alone after his mother died. But here I was, sitting in darkness, listening to them celebrate upstairs with the $2.3 million they thought they'd get for my property. You won't believe what happened when the police arrived. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The storage room smelled like 40 years of memories. Old paint cans, Christmas decorations Margaret and I had collected, Marcus's childhood bicycle still leaning against the wall. My eyes hadn't adjusted to the darkness yet, but I could hear everything. Jennifer's heels clicking on my hardwood floors. Marcus opening another beer, his fourth, judging by the sound. "Should we check on him?" Jennifer asked, but not with concern. More like someone asking if they should check on luggage. "He's fine. Probably fell asleep already. You know how he is after dinner." After dinner. The dinner where they'd tried to make me sign everything away. Where my son had pushed papers across the table with that fake smile. The one he'd perfected when he was 16 and lying about where he'd been all night. But that wasn't even the worst part of tonight. 3 hours earlier I'd been sitting in my living room watching the news when Marcus walked in with a folder. "Dad, we need to talk about your future." That's how it started, not "How are you feeling?" or "I'm worried about you." Just straight to business, like I was a problem to be solved. "I'm fine, Marcus. My future is my concern." "Dad, you're 72. You can't manage this big house anymore." "I managed it fine before you moved back in 6 months ago." That's when Jennifer appeared, wearing the pearl necklace I'd given her for their 10th anniversary. Margaret's pearls, actually. I'd saved them for Marcus's wife, thinking she'd treasure them. She wore them like costume jewelry. "Robert, we're just trying to help. This house is too much for one person. Then maybe you two should move out." The silence that followed told me everything. They hadn't expected resistance. They'd planned this conversation, rehearsed it probably. And I wasn't following the script. Marcus set the folder on the coffee table. "Just look at the papers, Dad. It's a good offer. Derek Williamson, you remember him from the country club, he's offering cash. No inspections, no hassles." Derek Williamson, I knew him all right. Known for buying houses from seniors at half their value, then flipping them for millions. 3 widows from our church had sold to him last year. All 3 were in nursing homes within 6 months. "The house isn't for sale, Marcus. Dad, be reasonable. What do you need with 4 bedrooms? The vintage cars you never drive. Mom's jewelry sitting in a safe." Mom's jewelry. He said it so casually. Like Margaret's memory was just another asset to liquidate. She'd been gone 8 years. But hearing him dismiss her things like that, it cut deeper than any physical pain could. I stood up. "This conversation is over." That's when Marcus grabbed my arm. Not hard enough to leave a mark. He was too smart for that, but firm enough to make his point. "We're not done talking, Dad. Let go of me, son." But he didn't let go. Instead, he guided me toward the basement door. "You need to cool off, think about this rationally." I should have screamed, should have fought harder. But part of me couldn't believe this was happening. This was Marcus. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike in the driveway. The teenager I'd bailed out when he got arrested for shoplifting. The man I'd given $450,000 to over the years for various investments and emergencies. The basement door opened, and he pushed me through. Not violently. Marcus never did anything that could be proven in court. Just a gentle pressure that sent me stumbling down the first few steps. "Just think about it, Dad. We'll talk in the morning." Then the lock clicked. I stood there in the darkness for a full minute, waiting for him to open the door. Waiting for him to say it was a mistake, a joke, something other than what it was. Instead I heard Jennifer say, "Did you get him to sign anything?" But it doesn't matter. I've got Dr. Patterson's letter about his cognitive decline. Dr. Patterson. My son's golf buddy who I'd seen exactly once, 6 months ago, when Marcus insisted I needed a checkup. The appointment that lasted 10 minutes. But that wasn't even the beginning of their plan. The cars, Jennifer asked. Tommy's guy will take them tomorrow night. $800,000 for the collection. Cash. What about the jewelry? After we move him to Sunset Manor. Can't have him claiming we stole it while he was still living here. Sunset Manor. The state-run facility on Route 9. The one that smelled like disinfectant and despair. The one where Eugene Phillips died alone last year. His family too busy to visit. I felt my way along the wall, my hand touching the rough concrete. 22 years ago, after the Hendersons were robbed 3 houses down, I'd installed a phone down here. Margaret had laughed at me. Robert, you're paranoid. Marcus, 15 then, had called me a doomsday prepper. But paranoia is just good planning that hasn't been needed yet. My fingers found the electrical panel, then moved 6 inches to the left. The little plastic cover popped open, and there it was. The old landline phone, still connected, still working. I'd been paying $19.99 a month for 2 decades for this moment. I could call 911, could have the police here in minutes. But then what? My son and his wife would claim it was a misunderstanding, that I'd gotten confused, locked myself in. They had a doctor's note saying I had cognitive decline. They'd probably even shed tears, talk about how hard it's been watching me deteriorate. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I dialed Thomas Chen's number from memory. Mrs. Chen's son, the lawyer who'd helped me with Margaret's estate, the one Marcus didn't know I still talked to. Thomas. It's Robert Patterson. I need you to listen very carefully and record everything I'm about to say. Upstairs, Marcus had turned on my television, my cable. In my living room, the volume was loud enough that I could hear some game show where people won money by answering questions. Ironic, considering my son was trying to win my money by avoiding questions. Robert. What's wrong? It's almost 10 o'clock. Marcus locked me in the basement. Thomas. He's selling my house tomorrow. Derek Williamson. They think I don't know, but I can hear everything. Stay on the line. I'm calling the police on my cell. Keep talking. Everything you say is being recorded. Through the floorboards I heard Jennifer on her phone. Yes, tomorrow at noon. Mr. Patterson won't be a problem. He's indisposed. Permanent care situation. I described everything to Thomas. The forced dinner. The papers. The lock clicking. The plans I was overhearing. But the worst part was still coming. Robert, Thomas said. I need to tell you something. Your neighbor, Mrs. Chen. My mother. She's been documenting things. Photos of Marcus throwing away your mail. Videos of Jennifer telling people at the grocery store that you have dementia. She's been worried about you for months. Months. This had been going on for months, and I'd been too proud, or too blind to see it. There's more. Thomas continued. I did some checking after Mom called me. Marcus owes money. A lot of money. Not to banks. How much? 300,000. Maybe more. The kind of people who don't accept bankruptcy as an answer. That's when I heard the sirens. Marcus wasn't always a monster. Or maybe he was, and I was just too blind to see it. 3 months before he locked me in that room, he'd convinced me to add him to my bank accounts for emergencies. I'd already given him $450,000 over the years. But apparently that wasn't enough. It started small, the way most betrayals do. A forgotten doctor's appointment here, a misplaced checkbook there. Things that happen to everyone. But when they happen to you at 72, suddenly everyone becomes concerned. Dad, you missed lunch with us yesterday, Marcus had said, standing in my kitchen one morning in April. He'd let himself in with the spare key. No, I didn't. We never had lunch plans. I called you Tuesday. We talked for 10 minutes about it. The thing is, I knew he was lying. I keep a calendar, always have. Margaret taught me that habit 45 years ago. Every appointment, every call, every plan written down in blue ink. There was no lunch. But Jennifer was recording on her phone. I saw it propped up against the fruit bowl, camera facing me. Maybe you're right, I said, because arguing with a camera seemed pointless. Must have slipped my mind. That video would come back to haunt me later. Marcus started coming by every day after that. Just checking in, he'd say, but really he was taking inventory. He'd open my mail before I could get to it. Check my refrigerator like I was a child who couldn't feed himself. Count the pills in my medication bottles. You have too many blood pressure pills left, Dad. Have you been taking them? Every morning, like I have for 15 years. The count's off. You should have 12 left, not 18. He was wrong. I'd refilled the prescription early because I was going to visit my sister in Florida, but explaining that seemed like defending myself in my own home, and I was too proud for that. What I didn't know was that he'd already started telling people I was declining. 2 weeks into his daily visits, Mrs. Chen knocked on my door. She'd lived next door for 30 years. Watched Marcus grow up, brought casseroles when Margaret died. Robert, I need to speak with you. Alone. Chen, this isn't a good time. Marcus interrupted from behind me. I wasn't talking to you. The tension between them was thick enough to cut. But Marcus put his hand on my shoulder, gentle but controlling. Dad's been having some confusion lately. It's better if visits are scheduled. I'm not confused, I said, but Marcus squeezed my shoulder. Remember yesterday? You thought it was Sunday and tried to go to church. That never happened. But Mrs. Chen looked at me with such pity that I knew he'd already been spreading stories. After she left, Marcus sat me down at my own kitchen table. Dad, I'm worried about you. These episodes of confusion, the missed appointments, the medication mistakes. There are no episodes, Marcus. Jennifer heard you talking to Mom last night. My blood went cold. Yes, I talk to Margaret sometimes. Not because I think she's there, but because after 50 years of marriage, the habit of sharing my thoughts with her doesn't just disappear. Every widower I know does the same thing. That's not confusion, son. That's grief. But he'd already pulled out papers. I think we need to make some arrangements. Just in case. Power of attorney, healthcare proxy, that sort of thing. I have all that set up already. Thomas Chen handled it years ago. Marcus's face tightened. Thomas Chen, the ambulance chaser? Dad, you need real lawyers. I've got someone better, from my firm. Marcus didn't work for a firm. He'd been between jobs for 2 years, living off what he called consulting work, but what looked to me like gambling and failed day trading. That's when I should have seen it all clearly. But children are our blind spots, aren't they? Just review these papers, Dad. For your protection. The stack was thick, full of legal language designed to confuse. But I'm not confused. I'm just old. There's a difference though. Marcus couldn't see it. I'll have Thomas look at them. There's no need to bother him. This is family business. Family business. The 2 words that have probably led to more betrayal than any others in history. Jennifer came over that evening with dinner. Pot roast, which she never made unless she wanted something. While I ate, she talked about their struggles. How hard it was with the economy. How their mortgage was underwater. How they might lose their house. We might have to move in here temporarily, she said, watching my reaction. Just until we get back on our feet. They'd been getting back on their feet for 5 years. Each time cost me tens of thousands of dollars. Of course, I said, because what father doesn't help his son? The guest room is yours. But that wasn't enough either. Marcus started taking me to see his friend Dr. Patterson. Not my doctor of 20 years. But his golf buddy who'd just opened a practice. Just a cognitive test, Dad. Routine at your age. The test was 10 minutes of basic questions. What year is it? Who's the president? Count backward from 100 by 7s. Things I could do in my sleep. He seems fine, Doctor. Patterson said, but the way he said it with that slight emphasis on seems, told me he'd already been coached on what to write. 3 weeks before the basement incident, Marcus brought over new bank forms. It's just adding me as a co-signer. Dad. In case something happens and I need to pay your bills. Nothing's going to happen, Marcus. Mom said the same thing, using Margaret's death to manipulate me. That should have been my breaking point. But guilt is a powerful weapon when wielded by your children. I signed the forms. Not power of attorney. I'd read those carefully. But the bank accounts, yes. Within a week $30,000 had disappeared. Investment opportunity, Marcus explained when I asked. I'll triple it within a month. The money never came back. Neither did the next $20,000. Or the $15,000 after that. Mrs. Chen tried one more time to warn me. She caught me getting the mail one morning. Marcus nowhere in sight. Robert, your son is not well. He owes money to dangerous people. My Thomas has heard things at the courthouse. Marcus is going through a rough patch. This is more than a rough patch. He's desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. But I didn't listen. Couldn't listen. Because listening meant admitting that my son, the boy I'd raised alone after Margaret died, had become someone I didn't recognize. The week before the basement, Jennifer started packing things. Small things she thought I wouldn't notice. Margaret's china, the silver, photo albums. Just organizing, Robert. This place needs decluttering. Decluttering. That's what they called stealing from me. Then Marcus called about a family dinner. Important news to share, he said. This Friday. 7 o'clock. I marked it on my calendar in blue ink. What I didn't write was what I suspected. That this dinner would change everything. I was right. But not in the way I expected. The morning of the dinner, I found Marcus in my study going through my files. My will. My investment accounts. The deed to the house. What are you doing? Just making sure everything's in order, Dad. You're not getting younger. Neither was he. At 45, Marcus looked older than I did at his age. Stress, debt, and whatever else he was hiding had aged him, but it hadn't taught him anything. Those are private documents, son. Nothing's private between family, Dad. That's when I knew. Whatever was coming at dinner, it wasn't going to be good news. It was going to be an ambush. I spent the rest of that day preparing, though I didn't know exactly what for. I hid certain documents, moved some valuables to my safety deposit box, called Thomas Chen and left a message about updating my will. But I still showed up for dinner. Because despite everything, he was still my son. That was my first mistake. Believing blood meant more than money. My second was not running when I saw Derek Williamson's business card on Marcus's desk. The third was sitting down at that table, across from my son's fake smile and his wife's calculating eyes, and believing that somewhere inside the stranger he'd become, my boy still existed. I was wrong on all counts. Jennifer cooked my favorite meal that night. Pot roast with rosemary potatoes. I should have known something was wrong. She hadn't cooked for me in 2 years, always claiming she was too busy with her wellness blog that somehow never made any money. The dining room was set with Margaret's good china, the ones Jennifer had been packing away just days before, candles lit. Wine opened. It looked like Thanksgiving, except it was July, and the only thing being carved up was my future. Smells wonderful, I said, sitting down at my usual spot, the head of the table. Though looking back I wonder if they'd already decided I wasn't the head of anything anymore. Marcus poured wine. A good bottle too. The 2015 Bordeaux I'd been saving for something special. What's the occasion? Can't we just have a nice family dinner? Jennifer asked. But her smile was too wide. Her voice too bright. We ate in relative silence for the first 10 minutes. The only sounds were forks against plates and Marcus refilling his wine glass twice. He was nervous. In 45 years I'd learned to read my son's tells. The way he touched his ear when lying. How he cleared his throat before asking for money. He was doing both now. Dad, we need to discuss something important. Here it was. The reason for the performance. Marcus pulled out a folder from the sideboard. The same kind of folder that had held every bad news document in my life. Margaret's diagnosis. The mortgage papers after I was laid off in '08, and now this. These are just some routine papers, tax stuff mainly. Our accountant says it'll save you thousands. I put down my fork and opened the folder. The first thing I saw was Derek Williamson's letterhead. Since when is Derek Williamson your accountant? He's helping us with some financial planning. Derek Williamson didn't do financial planning. He did financial predation. Everyone at the senior center knew his game. Friendly visits concerned conversations about maintenance costs. Then suddenly you're in a nursing home and he owns your house. I started reading. Really reading. Not the nonsense at the top about tax benefits and estate optimization. The real meat buried on page 3. This is a deed transfer. It's a trust, Dad. For tax purposes. It's a deed transfer, Marcus. I didn't work 40 years in commercial real estate to not recognize a property grab. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Jennifer stopped pretending to eat. Marcus's mask started slipping. You're misunderstanding the documents. Am I? Because this paragraph here transfers ownership of the house to you effective immediately, with you maintaining lifetime residence rights. Unless I'm deemed incapacitated. Which, coincidentally, your friend Dr. Patterson seems ready to do. Marcus set down his wineglass hard enough to crack the stem. You're being paranoid. No, I'm being robbed. By my own son. That's when Jennifer showed her true colors. Robbed? You've been sitting on millions while we can barely make rent. That's the real robbery. I've given you handouts, loans, crumbs. She was standing now, her carefully styled hair starting to fray. Do you know what it's like watching you live in this museum while we're drowning? Then get jobs. Real jobs. Not Marcus's gambling and your fake wellness blog. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Marcus's face went from red to white. What did you say? I know about the gambling, son, the bookies, the debt. But I didn't know the half of it. Not yet. You don't know anything. Marcus said quietly. Too quietly. You're a 72-year-old man who talks to his dead wife and forgets his own appointments. I've never forgotten a single. Haven't you? What about lunch last month? The doctor's appointment you missed? The time you tried to drive to the hardware store at midnight? None of those things happened. But the way he said them with such conviction made me wonder if this was what gaslighting felt like. When someone rewrites your reality so confidently that you question your own memory. You need help, Dad. We're trying to give it to you. By stealing my house. By protecting your assets. By making sure you're cared for. In Sunset Manor. I heard you two discussing it. I'm not deaf yet. Jennifer laughed. Actually laughed. You think you heard us? During one of your episodes? I don't have episodes. Tell that to the neighbors. Tell that to everyone at the grocery store who's seen you wandering the aisles confused. I hadn't been confused. I'd been looking for Margaret's favorite tea, the one they'd discontinued. But grief looks like confusion to people who've never lost someone. Sign the papers, Dad. Marcus pushed them toward me. Make this easy. Easy for who? For everyone. You've lived your life. You've had your time. Now it's ours. There it was. The truth naked and ugly. My time isn't over, Marcus. Isn't it? Mom's dead. Your friends are dying off. What are you holding on to? Why can't you just let go? He wanted me to disappear, not die necessarily, but fade away. Become invisible. Stop existing in any meaningful way. Because this is my home. My life. My choice. Not anymore. He said it so simply, like it was already decided. Like I was already gone. I stood up. I'm leaving. Marcus stood too, blocking my path. You're not going anywhere until you sign. Move, son. Or what? You'll fight me. You can barely walk without your cane. I didn't need a cane. Another lie they'd been spreading. I said move. Sign the papers. No, that's when Jennifer picked up her phone. Derek? Yes, he's being difficult. You might need to come over. You already called him. I looked at my son. This was never a discussion. It was an ambush. It's business, Dad. I'm not business. I'm your father. Same thing these days. Those 3 words broke something in me. Not my spirit. That would come later. But my faith in him. The last shred of belief that somewhere inside this stranger was the boy who'd cried at his mother's funeral, who'd held my hand in the hospital, who'd promised to take care of me when I got old. Margaret would be ashamed of you. The slap came from Jennifer, not Marcus. But he didn't stop her. Don't you dare invoke her name. She probably died to escape you. Escape this mausoleum you've turned into a shrine. My cheek stung, but not as much as the words. She died of cancer, Jennifer. She died of you. And we're not going to let you drain us the same way. That's when I made my move toward the door. Not running. I'm too old and too proud to run in my own home. But walking with purpose. Marcus grabbed my arm. Hard this time. You're not leaving. Let go of me. Not until you sign. I will never sign. He started pulling me toward the basement door. Jennifer opened it. Like they'd rehearsed this. You need time to think, Marcus said. To see reason. This is kidnapping. This is family taking care of family. They pushed me through the door. Not violently, they were too smart for that. But firmly, inevitably. Like I was a piece of furniture being moved to storage. Marcus, please. It's for your own good, Dad. The door closed. The lock clicked. Through the door I heard Jennifer on the phone again. Derek? Tomorrow at noon works perfectly. He'll have signed by then. What if he doesn't? Marcus asked. Then we use the power of attorney. We don't have power of attorney. We will. Your father's signature is easy to copy. I've been practicing. Forgery. They were planning to forge my signature. The house is worth $2.3 million. Derek's voice came through the speakerphone. The car's another $800,000. The jewelry. Probably $200,000. You'll clear your debts and have enough left over for a fresh start. What about him? Marcus asked. Sunset Manor has an opening. I've already put down a deposit in your father's name. They'd planned everything. Every detail. Every betrayal. Perfect, my son said. That word echoed in the darkness as I stood at the top of the stairs. My hand still on the doorknob. Still unable to believe this was happening. But it was. And in about an hour it would get worse. My hands shook as I felt along the wall in complete darkness. 22 years ago, after a home invasion in our neighborhood, I'd installed that emergency phone. My wife thought I was paranoid. Marcus, teenager then, had laughed at his doomsday prepper dad. But now, that paranoia would save my life. The basement storage room smelled like old cardboard and regret. My fingers traced the rough concrete wall, counting the electrical outlets. 1, 2, 3. The phone was hidden behind the third one next to the water heater that hadn't worked right since 2018. Above me, footsteps. Marcus's heavy walk in the kitchen. Jennifer's heels clicking toward the living room. They were celebrating already. My knee hit something hard. Marcus's old baseball trophy from high school. I'd kept everything. Every report card, every photo, every memory of when he was still my son and not my warden. The electrical panel was exactly where I remembered. 6 inches to the left, the small plastic cover popped open with a sound that seemed too loud in the darkness. My fingers found the old phone, dusty but intact. I could dial 911, end this right now. But then what? My word against theirs. The confused old man versus the concerned son. They had Dr. Patterson's letter. They had videos of me looking confused, tired, human. No, I needed the look on Marcus's face when the police broke down the door. I'll never forget it. He went from counting money in his head to counting potential prison years in about 3 seconds. Dad, he suddenly cried, trying to run to me. Thank God you're okay. We were just about to check on you. Even the officers rolled their eyes. I stood at the bottom of the basement stairs, still holding that dusty emergency phone, watching my son perform for the police. His transformation was instant. The cold calculator became the concerned son. The man who'd locked me in darkness now wanted to embrace me. "Sir, are you Robert Patterson?" The officer closest to me was young, maybe 30. His partner, a woman with sergeant stripes, was already reading the room. "I am. Are you hurt?" "No, just imprisoned in my own home." "Dad's confused," Marcus interrupted, moving closer. "He has dementia. Sometimes he wanders into rooms and forgets how to get out." The female officer, her badge read Morgan, Detective Sarah Morgan, held up her hand. "Sir, I'll need you to step back. This is my house." "No," I said quietly. "It's mine, and you locked me in that basement storage room 2 hours ago." Jennifer appeared then, her face flushed, champagne glass still in her hand. She set it down quickly, but Detective Morgan had already noticed. "Officers, this is a misunderstanding. My father-in-law gets confused. We were just having dinner, with champagne, while he was locked in the basement. We didn't know he was down there." Thomas Chen walked through the open door then, his phone still recording. "I have the entire incident on tape. Mr. Patterson called me from an emergency phone in the basement. Everything they said, everything they planned, it's all recorded." Marcus's face went white. "You can't record someone without their consent." "I can when I'm on the phone with someone who's being held against their will," Thomas replied. "It's called evidence, Mrs." Chen came in behind her son, carrying a manila folder thick with papers. "I have more evidence. 3 months of documentation. You've been spying on us?" Jennifer's voice pitched high. "I've been protecting my neighbor." Detective Morgan took the folder, flipping through it quickly. Her expression darkened with each page. "These are photos of you disposing of mail, addressed to Mr. Patterson. That's not. And here's a video of you, Mrs. Patterson, telling the grocery store clerk that your father-in-law has severe dementia." "He does." "Do I?" I asked. "Then how did I remember Thomas's phone number? How did I know about the emergency phone I installed 22 years ago? How do I remember exactly what you said about putting me in Sunset Manor?" Jennifer's mouth opened and closed like a fish, gasping for air. But the worst was yet to come for them. A car pulled up outside. Fast footsteps on my porch. Then Lisa burst through the door. My granddaughter. Marcus's daughter. 22 years old, with her grandmother's eyes, and thankfully, her grandmother's heart. "Grandpa." She ran to me, wrapping her arms around me. "I got Mrs. Chen's call. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "They told me you didn't want to see me anymore. Said you were too sick, that you didn't remember me." "What?" 3 months, Grandpa. 3 months they've been telling me you refused my visits." I looked at Marcus. My son couldn't meet my eyes. "I called every week," Lisa continued. "Mom said you were sleeping, or confused, or didn't want to be disturbed. I even drove here twice, but Dad met me at the door. Said you'd had a bad episode and seeing me would make it worse." Each word was a knife. They'd stolen my granddaughter from me. The one family member who still loved me without condition or calculation. "Lisa, honey, I never said any of that. I've been wondering why you stopped coming. They said you signed papers putting them in charge of your care. Said you didn't trust yourself anymore." Detective Morgan looked at Marcus. "Did you tell your daughter that? She's exaggerating." "No, Dad, I'm not." Lisa's voice turned cold. "I have your texts. All of them. The ones where you said Grandpa was deteriorating, where you said he'd become violent." "Violent? Me? The man who hadn't raised a hand to anyone since Vietnam. You need to understand." Marcus started, but Detective Morgan cut him off. "Patterson, I need you to turn around." "What? Why?" "You're under arrest for unlawful imprisonment, elder abuse and fraud." "This is ridiculous. He's my father. I was trying to help him. By locking him in a basement. He locked himself in." Thomas held up his phone. "Would you like me to play the recording where you discuss keeping him locked up for days until he signs over his property?" Jennifer tried to slip toward the back door, but the younger officer blocked her path. "Ma'am, you're also under arrest." "For what?" I didn't do anything. Conspiracy to commit elder abuse, fraud. And from what I heard on that recording, forgery. Mrs. Chen pulled out another paper. This is a copy of a check from Robert's account, signed yesterday when he was with me at the doctor's office. Someone forged his signature. I hadn't been at any doctor's office, but I understood. Mrs. Chen had created an alibi for me. Proof that someone else had signed that check. That's impossible to prove. Jennifer said. Actually, Lisa said quietly. I saw you practicing his signature last week. You had a stack of papers, tracing it over and over. I thought it was weird, but she trailed off, the full weight of her parents' crimes hitting her. Marcus turned to his daughter. Lisa, baby, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You were going to rob Grandpa and dump him in a home. We were trying to protect family assets. You were trying to steal family assets. Detective Morgan nodded to her partner. They produced handcuffs. This is insane, Marcus shouted. Dad, tell them this is a mistake. I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised, the man he'd become, the stranger in handcuffs. The only mistake was trusting you. You're really going to let them arrest me? Your own son? You stopped being my son the moment you locked that door. Jennifer was crying now. Not pretty tears but ugly mascara-running sobs. You can't do this to us. I'm not doing anything. You did this to yourselves. As they led them out, Marcus turned back one more time. What about Lisa? You're destroying her life too. Lisa answered before I could. You destroyed our family the day you decided Grandpa was just a bank account to empty. I'm staying with him. You're choosing him over us. I'm choosing the person who actually loves me over the ones who lie to me. The police cars pulled away, lights flashing but sirens off. The show was over. The neighbors who'd gathered on their lawns started dispersing. I sank into my chair. Margaret's chair, actually. The one she'd read in every evening. Lisa sat on the floor beside me, her head against my knee like when she was little. I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I should have known. Should have pushed harder to see you. It's not your fault, sweetheart. Mrs. Chen brought me tea. Thomas sat across from me with his legal pad. We have a lot to discuss, he said. But not tonight. Tonight you rest. I looked around my living room. The champagne bucket still sat on the table. The folder with the deed transfer papers lay scattered on the floor. Evidence of my son's betrayal everywhere. But also evidence of something else. Lisa holding my hand, Mrs. Chen fussing over me, Thomas standing guard. I'd lost a son tonight, but I'd discovered I still had a family, just not the one I'd expected. And somewhere in heaven I knew Margaret was nodding. Unsurprised. She'd always worried about about the coldness she saw in him that I'd refused to acknowledge. He's not like you, Robert. She'd said once. He loves differently. No, I thought. He doesn't love at all. But I was wrong about that too. Marcus did love something. He just loved money more than his father. Marcus's arrest made the local news. Local man arrested for elder abuse and attempted grand theft. The headline read. But that was just the beginning. Once Thomas started digging into Marcus's finances, we found a rabbit hole of theft, fraud, and betrayal going back 5 years. I sat in Thomas's office 3 days after the arrest, staring at credit card statements I'd never seen before. American Express, Visa, MasterCard. All in my name. All maxed out. $180,000, Thomas said quietly. He opened these using your social security number. How did I not know? He had them sent to a P.O. box. Been paying the minimums to keep them active. Probably with money he stole from your accounts. Each statement was like reading a diary of my son's deception. Casino charges. Online poker sites. Luxury hotels I'd never stayed in. Restaurants I'd never eaten at. There's more, Robert. There always was. Thomas pulled out another folder. Your storage unit. The one with Margaret's things and your military items. What about it? It's been emptied. Slowly over the past 2 years. I felt the blood drain from my face. My medals. Gone. Sold through an online militaria dealer. Your Purple Heart went for $3,000. My Purple Heart, the one I earned taking shrapnel in my leg, saving 3 men from a burning helicopter, sold like a trinket. Margaret's wedding dress, also sold. To a vintage clothing store downtown. Lisa, who'd been sitting quietly beside me, reached for my hand. She'd moved in the day after her parents' arrest, refusing to leave me alone. Grandpa, I found something else. She handed me her laptop. On the screen was Jennifer's wellness blog. But when Lisa clicked through to the back end, it showed something different. My personal information, social security number, bank accounts, medical history, being sold in packages to scammers. She was selling you, Grandpa, your identity. 15 different buyers over the past year. Marcus wore his best suit to court. The one I'd bought him for his college graduation. He kept trying to make eye contact with me, mouthing, "Dad, please." But I wasn't his dad anymore. I was victim number 1 in case 2024, 8974, the state versus Marcus and Jennifer Patterson. The courtroom smelled like old wood and disappointment. I sat in the front row, Lisa beside me, Mrs. Chen on my other side. Behind Marcus, no one. His friends, his golf buddies, his business associates, all gone once the headlines hit. "Your Honor," Marcus's lawyer began, "my client is a son who watched his father deteriorate and made desperate choices." Desperate choices. That's what they were calling theft, fraud, and poisoning now. The prosecutor, a young woman named Sarah Kim, stood up. "The state will show that Marcus Patterson systematically abused, robbed, and drugged his father over a period of 5 years. 5 years. I'd been thinking it was recent, maybe a year at most. But 5 years meant it started when Margaret was dying. When I needed my son most, he was already plotting against me. The evidence came out piece by piece. First, the recordings Thomas had made. Marcus's voice filled the courtroom. "Another day or two in that room, he'll sign anything." I watched my son shrink in his chair. Then came the credit cards. Sarah Kim laid them out one by one. 18 cards opened in Robert Patterson's name without his knowledge. Total debt, $180,000. The medical evidence was next. Mr. Patterson had enough sulfidime in his system to sedate a horse. This wasn't therapeutic. This was designed to incapacitate. Dr. Patterson took the stand. Marcus's golf buddy looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 months. Marcus asked me to write a letter about his father's cognitive decline. "Did you examine Mr. Patterson thoroughly?" 10 minutes. Maybe less. "And based on that you declared him incompetent." Marcus said there was more history. Episodes I hadn't seen. "Did you verify these episodes?" Even Marcus's own witness was destroying him. But the real explosion came when Jennifer took the stand. She'd lost weight. The designer clothes replaced with a simple gray dress. Her lawyer had cut a deal. Testify against Marcus for a reduced sentence. "He planned everything," she said. Not looking at her husband. "The drugging was his idea. The storage unit theft. All of it." "Mrs. Patterson, were you aware of your husband's other family?" The courtroom went silent. "What other family?" Sarah Kim presented the evidence. Photos of Marcus with Sandra and her 2 children. Bank transfers totaling $400,000 over 7 years. Jennifer's face crumbled. "I didn't know. These funds came from accounts he shared with you. You never noticed. He handled the finances, just like he'd tried to handle mine." Jennifer's testimony turned vicious after that. She revealed every detail, every crime, every lie. How Marcus had practiced forging my signature, how he'd intercepted my mail, how he'd told my doctor friends I was showing signs of dementia so they'd stop visiting. He said once his father was in a home, we'd be set for life. "Did you ever consider that this was wrong?" He said old people don't need money. They're just waiting to die anyway. I closed my eyes. Is that really how my son saw me? As someone just waiting to die? Then came the moment that changed everything. A man entered the courtroom, 6'4", expensive suit, dead eyes. Vincent Torelli, the loan shark's enforcer. He wasn't there to testify. Just to sit. Just to stare at Marcus. My son went pale. His hands started shaking. "Your Honor," Marcus's lawyer said, "I request that gentleman be removed." On what grounds? It's a public trial. Vincent smiled. Marcus looked like he might vomit. Lisa testified next. My granddaughter, having to tell a room full of strangers how her parents had lied to her, manipulated her, used her. They said Grandpa was dangerous, that he'd threatened them. I believed them because they were my parents. Did you ever see evidence of this danger? No. Grandpa never even raised his voice, even when they were stealing from him. Objection, Marcus's lawyer called. Sustained. But the jury had heard it. The defense's case was pathetic. They brought in a psychologist who'd never met me to testify about caregiver stress. They presented Marcus's financial struggles, as if poverty justified poisoning your father. Marcus took the stand on day 3. He wore that same suit, now wrinkled, sweat stains visible under the harsh courtroom lights. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? Sarah Kim asked. I just needed help. The debts were crushing me. So you crushed your father instead. I was trying to protect family assets. By stealing them. By managing them. Is drugging someone managing them? That was a mistake. 18 credit cards were a mistake. Selling your mother's wedding dress while your father grieved was a mistake. Marcus looked at me then. Really looked at me. Dad. I'm sorry. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. 2 hours to decide 5 years of betrayal. On the count of elder abuse we find the defendant, Marcus Patterson, guilty. On the count of fraud, guilty. On the count of unlawful imprisonment, guilty. The list went on. 15 counts. 15 guilty verdicts. Jennifer got her verdict next. 8 counts. 8 guilty verdicts. Her deal had saved her some years but not her freedom. The judge spoke directly to Marcus during sentencing. Mr. Patterson, you didn't just steal money. You stole your father's dignity, his trust, his health. You poisoned him, imprisoned him, and tried to erase him. 15 years. Jennifer got 8 years, still sobbing about the other family she'd never known about. As they led Marcus away in handcuffs, he turned one last time. Dad. I'm sorry. Please, Dad. I'm your son. I could have turned around, could have given him one last look, one moment of connection, but I didn't. Because he was right about one thing. He was my son, but I was no longer his father. I'd buried my son the night he locked that basement door. The man in handcuffs was just a stranger who looked like someone I used to love. Lisa took my arm as we left the courthouse. You okay, Grandpa? I will be. Vincent Torelli stood by the door. He nodded at me once, then disappeared into the crowd. The war wasn't over. Marcus owed money that prison wouldn't erase. But for today justice had been served. Cold, calculated and complete. Just like my son's betrayal. The morning after the trial, I sat in my lawyer's office with a pen in my hand. You sure about this, Robert? Thomas asked. I looked at the new will in front of me. Marcus's name wasn't anywhere on it. I've never been more sure of anything, I told him. He wanted my money so badly. Now he'll get to watch everyone else inherit it. The will was 12 pages of careful planning. Every asset, every account, every piece of Margaret's jewelry accounted for. But not one penny for Marcus. The house goes to Lisa. All of it. She's the only family who never asked for anything. Lisa didn't know yet. She was at home, probably cleaning something that didn't need cleaning, the way she did when she was anxious. The vintage cars, Veterans Museum, with a plaque. The Margaret Patterson Memorial Collection. She loved those cars as much as I did. Thomas made notes. Your military pension. Trust fund for Emma and James. My daughter Sarah's children. She died in a car accident 8 years ago. Her kids lived with their father in Oregon. But they still called me every Sunday. Marcus had told them I was too sick to talk anymore. Another lie Lisa had helped me uncover. The remaining liquid assets. The Patterson Foundation for Elder Abuse Prevention. $2 million to start. Thomas set down his pen. That's generous. It's necessary. How many others are locked in basements right now? How many are being drugged by their own children? I signed every page, each signature a small rebellion against what Marcus had tried to take. There's one more thing, Thomas said. Mrs. Chen. You want her as healthcare proxy. She's the one who noticed, who cared, who acted. Yes. Not Lisa. Lisa's backup. But Mrs. Chen is 78. She knows what it means to be old, to be vulnerable. She'll fight for me the way she already has. 3 days later I drove to the state prison, 40 minutes through farmland that looked nothing like the life I'd built in the suburbs. The guards knew why I was there. Elder abuse cases were special to them. Many had parents, grandparents. Marcus sat behind glass, phone in hand, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. He'd lost weight. The expensive haircut grown out, the confident smile gone. Dad, Marcus, you came. Once. Just once. His eyes filled with hope. Does that mean I rewrote my will yesterday? The hope died. Everything? Everything. Lisa gets the house. The cars go to the Veterans Museum. Your mother's jewelry to Lisa and Emma. Emma, Sarah's daughter. My granddaughter. Yes. What about me? What about you? I'm your son. You were. Then you poisoned me. Locked me in a basement. Tried to steal everything I'd built. I was desperate. You were greedy. He slammed his fist on the counter. The guard stepped forward. You don't understand. They were going to kill me. The Torellis are your problem. Not mine. Not anymore. Dad, please. When I get out, you'll be 60. I'll likely be dead, and you'll have nothing from me. Nothing. That's cruel. Cruel. You want to discuss cruel? How about drugging your father, selling your dead mother's wedding dress, telling Lisa I didn't want to see her? He had nothing to say to that. Jennifer's pregnant. I hadn't expected that. Sandra's children aren't enough. His face crumbled. She left me, took the kids, said she doesn't date convicts. Smart woman. Jennifer's family reached out, he said desperately. They wanted you to know she did the same thing to them. Stole their retirement. They haven't spoken in 3 years. So I wasn't special, just the latest victim. She manipulated me too. No, you manipulated each other. Perfect match. I stood to leave. Dad, wait. 15 years. I'll die in here. You'll survive. The same way I survived your betrayal. I'm sorry. No, you're sorry you got caught. I hung up the phone and walked away. He pounded on the glass, shouting something I couldn't hear and didn't want to. The drive home was quiet. I thought about the son I'd lost, not to prison but years before to greed and entitlement and whatever darkness lived in him that I'd refused to see. When I pulled into my driveway, there were cars everywhere. Old cars, familiar cars. I walked through my front door to find my living room full of ghosts, not real ones, but close enough. My army unit, the surviving 8 of us, Bobby, Charlie Henshaw, my gunner from Vietnam stood up from my couch. Lisa called us, told us everything. Didn't believe it at first, added Tommy Martinez. Marcus always seemed like such a good kid. He was, I said. Once. Well, he's gone now. And we're here. Lisa appeared from the kitchen carrying a cake. Margaret's recipe. German chocolate. My favorite. Grandpa, I hope you don't mind. I found their numbers in your old address book. I looked around the room. Men I hadn't seen in 2 years because Marcus had told them I was too ill for visitors. Men who'd fought beside me, bled beside me, and now stood beside me again. I don't mind at all. Mrs. Chen was there too, directing food placement like a general. Eat, she commanded. You're too thin. We spent the evening telling war stories, the kind that get better with age and distance. Nobody mentioned Marcus. Nobody needed to. Around 9 as they were leaving, Charlie pulled me aside. We heard about the Torelli situation. How? We might be old, Bobby, but we still have connections. Don't worry about them. Charlie, some of us know people who know people. Let's just say the Torellis have been convinced that you're off limits. Professional courtesy. I didn't ask for details. Didn't want them. But knowing my unit still had my 6 after all these years meant everything. That night Lisa and I sat in the living room, looking at photo albums, pictures of Marcus as a baby, a boy, a young man, before he became what he became. "Do you miss him?" Lisa asked. "I miss who he was, or who I thought he was. But the man in prison, no. He's still my father, and you can love him if you need to, but you don't owe him anything. He owes you everything." "No, he owes me nothing now. The will is done. The ties are cut. He's free to be whoever he really is, and I'm free from believing he's someone else." Lisa leaned against my shoulder. "I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart." Outside, Mrs. Chen's porch light was on. She'd taken to leaving it on all night now. A small beacon that said someone was watching, someone cared. I'd lost a son but gained a real family, the kind that shows up not for money but for love. Marcus would never understand that, which is why he'd already lost everything that mattered long before the police arrived. 2 years passed. I was 74 now, healthier than I'd been in years without Marcus's poison in my system. Then Lisa called me one afternoon. "Grandpa," she said, her voice strange. "Dad's been attacked in prison. The loan sharks, they found him." I was pruning Margaret's roses when she called. The same roses I'd nearly let die when Marcus was drugging me, now blooming like they hadn't in years. "How bad?" "He's in the hospital ward. Broken ribs, collapsed lung, internal bleeding." I set down the pruning shears. "Are you going to see him?" "I don't know. Should I?" That wasn't my decision to make. Lisa had been seeing a therapist for 2 years working through the betrayal. She'd graduated law school 6 months ago, specializing in elder law. Her father's crimes had become her career. "That's your choice, sweetheart. Will you come with me?" I hadn't seen Marcus since that day at the prison, hadn't wanted to. But Lisa needed me. "If you need me there." The drive to the prison hospital was quiet. Lisa had her mother's profile, delicate but strong. Jennifer was gone now, married to some real estate developer who'd worked with Derek Williamson. She'd divorced Marcus the moment his money ran out. "Did you hear about Mom?" Lisa asked. "What about her?" "She's being investigated." Same scheme, new husband. They targeted 3 elderly couples in Florida. Of course she was. Some people never learn. They just find new victims. The prison hospital smelled like every hospital, disinfectant and despair. Marcus lay in a bed, handcuffed to the rail even though he couldn't walk. His face was swollen, purple and yellow bruises covering most of it. One eye completely shut. He tried to smile when he saw Lisa. "Baby girl." "Hi, Dad." Then he saw me. The attempted smile faded. "You came for Lisa, not for you." He nodded then winced at the movement. "I understand." He looked smaller, not just thinner but diminished. The confidence beaten out of him along with several teeth. "The Torellis?" I asked. "They're people inside. Apparently my debt got sold. New owners wanted to send a message." "How much now?" "With interest. 400,000. Money he'd never have. A debt that would follow him even after prison." "Lisa," he said, "could you give us a minute?" She looked at me. I nodded. She stepped outside. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said. "I don't need to hear anything. Please. I may not get another chance." Something in his voice, maybe the acceptance of death, made me stay. "I lost my job 7 years ago. Right after Mom got diagnosed, downsizing they said. But really, I'd been skimming. Small amounts. They let me resign instead of pressing charges. 7 years ago. I'd been focused on Margaret's cancer, hadn't noticed my son falling apart. Why didn't you tell me?" "How could I? You were dealing with Mom, and you'd always been so proud of me. Your successful son. I would have helped." "I know. That was the problem. You always helped. Always fixed things. I never learned to stand on my own." It wasn't an excuse. Just an explanation. The gambling started as a way to make quick money, get back on my feet without you knowing I'd fallen. But it spiraled. Jennifer saw an opportunity. She'd been planning her own schemes, saw me as the perfect partner. You're blaming her? No. I made my choices. But she made them easier. She'd say things like your dad's had his life. Now it's our turn. Made it sound reasonable. Normal even. Nothing about drugging your father was normal. I found your letters, he said. The ones you wrote Mom when you were in Vietnam. I stiffened. Those letters were private, sacred. You were terrified. 20 years old and terrified every single day. But you never told anyone. Just kept fighting. That was different. Was it? You came back. Built a life. Raised a family. Never once complained about what you'd seen. What you'd done. And I couldn't even handle losing a job without falling apart. You could have. What? Been like you. I tried. But I'm not you, Dad. I never was. I'm weak. Selfish. Everything you're not. The truth hung between us like a funeral shroud. He reached under his pillow, pulled out an envelope. Lisa brought this. I wanted to give it back. Inside was a photo. Marcus, age 5, sitting on Margaret's lap at Christmas, both of them laughing at something off camera. Probably me, trying to figure out the new camera. Keep it, I said. Why? Because that's the son I mourned. That boy in the photo. You killed him long before you locked me in that basement. His face crumpled. Dad. That boy was innocent. Full of joy. He loved his mother and trusted his father. I don't know when he died or how, but he's gone. I'm still here. No. You're someone else. Someone I don't know. Maybe never knew. I'm sorry. I know. But sorry doesn't resurrect the dead. I turned to leave. Dad? Will you tell Lisa I love her? She knows. It's the only thing keeping her here. And you? Do you love me? I stopped at the door. I love the boy in that photo. I love the memory of the son I thought I had. But you? I don't know you well enough to love you. That's fair. Take care, Marcus. Dad? I turned one last time. Thank you for coming, for letting me explain. Most fathers wouldn't. I'm not most fathers. I'm the one you betrayed. I left him there holding that photo, tears running down his swollen face. Lisa was waiting in the corridor. You okay, Grandpa? I will be. Is he? No. But that's not our problem anymore. We drove home in silence. That evening Thomas Chen called. Jennifer had been arrested in Florida. The elderly couple she'd targeted had a recording device in their home. She'd been caught on tape, planning the exact same scheme she'd run with Marcus. Some people never change. But some do. Lisa had become a protector instead of a predator. Mrs. Chen's son had become my closest friend. And I'd become someone who could walk away from my son without guilt. The boy in the photograph was dead. The man in the hospital bed was a stranger. And I was finally at peace with both truths. I'm 75 now, sitting on my porch with Mrs. Chen, who became more than a neighbor, she became family. Lisa just called to say she passed the bar exam. She's going to be a prosecutor specializing in elder abuse cases. Grandpa, she said, you turned our family's darkest moment into purpose. I looked at my wife's picture on the side table. We did it, honey, I whispered. We raised one good one after all. Mrs. Chen poured tea from the pot she'd brought over. She does that every afternoon now. 3 o'clock sharp, we sit and watch The Neighborhood. 2 old soldiers who've survived different wars. Lisa's young man is coming for dinner tonight, I told her. The doctor? David? Yes. 3rd time this month. Good boy. Respectful. Such a simple thing, yet so rare. David had asked my permission to propose to Lisa, not because he had to, but because he wanted to, because he understood that family means something, even when that family has been broken and rebuilt. The mailbox flag was up. I walked over, found the usual bills, advertisements, and 3 letters from the state prison. Marcus wrote every week now. I never opened them, never threw them away either. They sat in a box in the garage, unopened testimonies to a relationship that died years before he was arrested. You should read them, Mrs. Chen said when I returned. Why? To know you made the right choice. I already know. The afternoon sun caught the memorial plaque on my garden wall. The Margaret Patterson Rose Garden. Lisa and I had planted it last spring. 57 roses for the 57 years Margaret lived. They bloomed now in defiance of everything that had tried to destroy this place. My phone rang. Thomas Chen. Robert, thought you should know. Jennifer was convicted. 8 years, no parole. The Florida couple testified via video link. She'd convinced them their son was stealing from them, then positioned herself as their protector. The same playbook. Different victims. Their son? Navy veteran. Deployed overseas. She intercepted his letters, made them think he'd abandoned them. Even after everything that shocked me. The cruelty of it. The calculation. At 5, Lisa arrived with David. She wore her courtroom suit, the one I'd bought her for graduation. David carried flowers for Mrs. Chen and a bottle of wine I'd mentioned liking months ago. The boy paid attention. Grandpa, I have news. Besides passing the bar, the state legislature passed Robert's law. I set down my tea. What? The bill I testified for. Financial exploitation by family members is now a Class B felony. Mandatory minimums. No plea bargains. Robert's law. My name on legislation protecting others from what I'd endured. They want you to speak at the signing ceremony. David added. The governor specifically requested you. 3 years ago I was locked in a basement. Now governors knew my name. I'll think about it. You'll do it, Mrs. Chen said. Others need to hear. She was right. I'd spoken at 12 senior centers this year. Each time someone would approach afterward, tears in their eyes saying I thought I was the only one. Dinner was peaceful. Lisa talked about her cases. David discussed his residency. Mrs. Chen told stories about Thomas's childhood that made him blush. Normal family conversation, except this family was chosen, not born. Marcus wrote again. Lisa said quietly over dessert. I know. Do you ever wonder what he says? No. I read one once. The one he sent me. I waited. He says he's getting out early. Good behavior. 3 more years instead of 7. 3 years he'd be 51. Young enough to start over. Old enough to know better. He asked if he could come here. When he gets out. What did you tell him? That Grandpa's house is for family. And he chose not to be family anymore. My granddaughter had become my protector. The irony wasn't lost on me. After dinner we sat on the porch. The neighborhood was quiet. The Hendersons' house, where the break-in happened 22 years ago, now belonged to a young family. Their children played in the yard where fear once lived. I'm proud of you, Lisa, for passing the bar, for becoming who you are despite who raised you. She leaned against my shoulder. You raised me too, Grandpa. The important parts anyway. David and Mrs. Chen were inside, washing dishes, their laughter drifting through the windows. Thomas would arrive soon for our weekly poker game. Tomorrow Emma and James would video call from Oregon. This was my family now. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. Grandpa, can I ask you something? Always. Do you forgive him? Dad? I thought about that question every day. Forgiveness would mean accepting what he did as forgivable. It's not. Some things break beyond repair. But you're not angry anymore. Anger takes energy. I'd rather use that energy on people who deserve it. My phone buzzed. A text from Charlie, my old army buddy. Poker night at mine next week. Bring that terrible whiskey you like. Life. Simple, honest life. The sun set behind Margaret's roses. In the fading light, I saw our whole story. The love, the betrayal, the justice, the rebuilding. Marcus had wanted my money, my house, my legacy. He'd been willing to destroy me to get them. Instead, he'd freed me. Freed me from the illusion that blood means loyalty. From the guilt of enabling him. From the hope that he'd change. In trying to take everything, he'd given me clarity about what actually mattered. Lisa, I said, when I die. Grandpa, don't. When I die, this house is yours. But it's not about the house. It's about what you do with it. Fill it with love, real love, the kind that builds up, not tears down. I promise. Mrs. Chen came out with more tea. David followed with cookies Lisa had made. Thomas's car pulled into the driveway. My house was full of family, my real family, the ones who showed up not for inheritance but for connection, who protected me not for profit but from love. Marcus wanted my money, my house, my legacy. In the end, he got what he truly deserved. Nothing. And I got what I never thought I'd have again, a family that actually loves me. If you enjoyed this story of justice and redemption, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know faced family betrayal? How did you overcome it? To listen to the next powerful story, click on the box on the left.